at 2-8. A lot of things swirling around about Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, job futures for both of them and everybody in the front office. Today, Kevin Stefanski was asked about all the talk concerning his future as Browns head coach.
So you know how this game goes. You grew up listening to WIP.
610 WIP.
You're 2-8. Your name's shown up on hot seat lists in the media. How do you feel going into this stretch, Pittsburgh, Denver, Pittsburgh?
I think probably because I grew up listening to that, I'm smart enough to not worry about outside noise. I get that's part of this gig. That's life in the big city. My sole focus is getting this team ready to get a win on Thursday night. That's it.
With that, let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. And Jeff, I know you've kind of addressed this, and I'm with you. Nobody in that front office or on that staff is safe. You expected to contend for an AFC championship, and you are contending for the first overall pick in the draft. Those two are all over the place.
Well, certainly when you won 11 games the year before, and, there is a real path here that this team only wins 2 football games this year. So you go 9 games, in reverse, it seems pretty, clear that, a head will roll, multiple heads will roll. You do have other factors into this. They have had promising years in 2020 and certainly in 2023. Both of these gentlemen have just been having, reached contract extensions to extend their time with Cleveland. There isn't a talking point right now, whether it is front office related, whether it is coaching related, whether it is players on the roster related, where, you can't say without a 110% uncertainty, except for maybe Myles Garrett. And I'm only talking about guys maybe under contract, about whether or not they are part of the Cleveland Browns for 2025. There are a lot of questions everywhere. And I don't think anything that happens over this next 7 weeks is going to probably change, the stance one way or the other. It's just absolute train wreck of a season. I think maybe, some of us who were more upbeat and positive during the offseason, during the summer, maybe probably should have removed our blinders a little bit and said, well, we haven't seen any of the offensive tackles yet. Why is the quarterback who's barely played in the last 2 years, he doesn't seem he's good enough to, he's too good to take some preseason reps here. Multiple players dinged, missing time, the whole Amari Cooper situation, which at the time probably should have just moved on from Amari last off season. There's just so much to talk about with this team and so much uncertainty with this team from week to week, let alone trying to, basically, look into, a glass ball and try to predict what 2025 is even going to come close to looking like.
So this is kind of interesting as well. In the last decade, the only NFL head coaches to reach a conference title game with a team and survive a season with less than 6 wins after they'd reached the conference title game with the same team, there's 2 of them. Sean McVay, 5-12 in 2022 with the Rams. John Harbaugh, 5-12, 2015 with the Baltimore Ravens. Both of them had won Super Bowls beforehand as well. So that's kind of the barometer. It doesn't happen where no matter how much success you've had, if you have a year that is a train wreck, like we've said, usually the team moves on from you.
Well, I mean, numbers like that don't lie. There is no question to it. Obviously, there's reasons we have fact checkers and people who help us with all these lovely, nice little, numbers and, things that we can use certainly to bring out. In my heart of hearts, I don't know necessarily where you go. If you look just straight at, hey, are Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, have they been good for the Cleveland Browns? Have they changed the way this franchise is viewed? And let's be honest, nobody, for years, if the Browns were 2-8, going into a Thursday night game this late in the season, everybody said, it's about right. These gentlemen did bring expectations to this franchise, did bring playoffs to this franchise, things that certainly did not go on here, forever since the return, or very limited, certainly since the return And, so there's a lot that these guys have done. But that being said, there's pressure with that. And there are certainly consequences with that. And, I don't think anybody wants to have, 1 year we go up the mountain, 1 year we go, basically got thrown down the mountain. Then we climb back up the mountain. Then we got kicked back down the mountain again. I don't think anybody wants to go that route. You want to find a way to, establish consistency in this league. And, for anybody, I get it, the fact that it's 2-8. But look, if the Browns aren't making the playoffs, which we all 100% agree, you don't want to be in a situation where, okay, wow, we're the last team that didn't make the playoffs, so that means we get to draft 19th. No, you'd rather hopefully at least we're going to get a chance to hopefully, throw our hats in the ring at a franchise-altering player. So if you're not going to make the playoffs, you might as well fail miserably and at least have a really solid chance to build back up the roster, which is something this team needs to do. Look, the financials are not as bad as people want them to believe, but it's not going to hurt anything to start getting younger and certainly a little bit cheaper in some areas on this roster as well.